what she was planning on addressing other than that.
Do you want to speak to any of that, or at least your reporting kind of chunk at the beginning, just again to make sure that we give you guys enough time?
Hang on.
No worries.
Hang on. I'm gonna actually unmute myself here for a moment. There we go. Now I don't have to hold a space bar. Primarily, this is, I have an email from my boss that I get to print out and frame, where I asked about reporting standards, and she said, "Oh no, I like your more detailed reports. I like to know what's going on in the places I don't get to." I've had the same reporting document that I've used since I was in the East, and it's apparently way more detailed than anybody tends to use here. But primarily it covers the stuff that she wants covered, which is who I am, what the group is. Oh, excuse me. Number of authorized fencers, number of unauthorized fencers, were there injuries, were there equipment failures, armor failures, and if it had to have been reported up the chain already. If there are equipment failures or armor failures, we like to include photographs, or at least that's how I was brought up to do. And then if there are events. So it's fairly straightforward, but apparently a lot of people don't go for a lot of details or don't go for a lot of details. That's why I like to have a form. So I just go through, fill out all my stuff. I look at my paragraphs and say, oh, right, yes, we did do that. I'll include that. And then I just forward that up the chain. So I think what she's probably going to have me pushing for as we get back to having anything to report is sort of trying to get that structure out there, which I will do. Like I said, I have a document I can send out to people, and it's, I mean, do I make it more fancy than it needs to be? Do I have a picture of the group arms in there? Yes. Do you need that? No. But other than that, we're going to have new stuff to report as people start bringing things like spears into regular practices. Certainly the 2 authorized fencers in my group do not have spears as of yet because we can't get a hold of shaved rattan. But we're going to have to know how to inspect and authorize spear, as well as the stuff that we've already been dealing with. And I know that we're waiting on some more input from cut and thrust. And other than that, I've run out of stuff that I'm sure enough to speak on.
Just to catch up some of the other people in here, do you feel comfortable talking a little bit on the new like weapons inclusions, in case there are people that are not aware of being added in?
Such as spear? Yes, sure. I have a little bit of, I mean, I've taken some Zoom classes on that with people who are in areas that are doing that regularly. Apparently there's a tournament in Anstiora where they allowed that as an experiment, and the person who eventually won fought nothing but spear all day. I don't know how that was, how that went over, but everybody seemed to be okay with the comportment. Basically, society rules have now allowed that we have spears available to us as rapier fighters. Anything up to and including, starting at, I think 1.5 feet. I mean, you can make a small Irish spear and it's legal, up to a total length of 9 feet. There are 2 easily available and accepted spearheads. One's cold steel and one is Purple Heart, I think. They're slightly different styles, different lengths, but they both have the basic can flex to a 90-degree angle and come back within a few seconds, have room for enough shaft mount to be stable. We have some specifics on how far that has to be mounted and what color tape has to be on it, that sort of thing. We can get to specifics as we get to it. But essentially, they settled on up to 1.5 inches, I think, shaved rattan shaft, which is causing some people some consternation because a lot of people had been working with wood. And suddenly we have to scrap a lot of that stuff and go with rattan that a lot of fencers don't necessarily have access to readily.
That's a big problem.
But what it does is it improves the flexibility overall of the weapon. So as far as safety is concerned, we're happy with that. As far as an ability to use it as a stick, some people involved in the early experiment are a little iffy on it, but are going with that because that's the rules. If you'll give me just a second here, I have an example of one of these the other side of the room here.
Okay.
If the tip can flex at 90 degrees, why does the shaft need to flex at all?
I think that it's more a matter of if the shaft breaks or splinters, just the same as in heavy fighting, you've got rattan as opposed to wood shards.
Oh, yeah.
Correct. Okay, so
I hope to God y'all are never hitting each other that hard.
This is the cold steel example. You can see it'll fold to a pretty good angle here and come back under its own power. It has a prescribed flat surface for striking. This one is about twice as long as the Purple Heart guy, which is a little bit more like a stubby butt spike shaped spearhead. They seem to be a little bit more popular because they've got a little bit more material to them in the flex area. These occasionally, and I know a lot of people in El Paso have been using these and having, if you don't shape the shaft correctly, they blow out here. The Purple Heart ones don't seem to have that problem, but it's rubber. They eventually fail. So we're kind of expecting that. It's what we're inspecting for. I have this on a wooden shaft because it's what I had around to not lose it. But basically, it's going to be about that size. An inch to 1.25 inches is probably going to be what a lot of people for rapier are going to be seeing. It is usable against rapier. It is usable in place of rapier. It has about the same striking strength as a properly flexible standard length rapier. Anybody else have any other specifics that they want me to address on that?
And we can do pool cueing on spears now, right? It's not fixed grip.
Pool cueing is on the hairy edge. There is still there's sliding that you can do. There's hand position changes, but you can't grab that end and push the entire thing through like would be useful for this sort of weapon in real life. But yeah, I think there is room in the rules now for that kind of addressing. But again, if you are here and sliding, you're not putting as much force behind that as if you're planting. Definitely can't plant on the ground or on your feet. That is specifically prohibited. But to my knowledge, the way that we're seeing this used safely in the experiments, there is a certain amount of slide that is capable. So that's still going to be in flux. Like I said, we're rewriting the Outlands rules at the moment. We've pretty much taken that chunk out of the society rules and applied it. And we'll have to, make sure that it makes sense. But that's pretty much the big thing. A lot of the rest of it is specificity and I've been trying to go through and correct very gender-specific language that apparently is a throwback from older versions of the Outlands rules. Howdy, Finn.
No, I'm not waving hello. I'd like to say a few words as well. So, Ian, actually, so to start off, Roland, you had asked about how gentle these things can touch. You can give feather-light touches with these things with one hand. There is no force that's necessary in them. They give, they flex, everything is fine with it. The shaved rattan is the only point that I was curious about. I don't remember the rules well enough. Does it have to be shaved, or is it one of those, is it more based on the diameter of the shaft? Because other rattan's just fine. And it's not so much pool cueing, Ronan. Like you can use two hands, you can use one hand. These things are light enough that with one hand you can do a gentle touch. So if that's not in there, that needs to be considered as well.
I'll have to go back and look and see about that. I don't remember if there are specifics on whether you have to have both hands on it all the time. There were at one point, and I don't know if there still are.
Okay. Thank you.
And to the rattan question, do you know on that one if it's required shaved or if it just has to be the correct diameter?
I got to go back and reread. All the discussions that I've been in, everybody's been using the phrase shaved rattan. I think because it makes a nicer spear shaft as far as what we're doing. But otherwise, I don't know that it is specified, but I do see that my boss is here. So Dravel may have some input on that. Again, I have to go back and look at it. I've read the entire rule set through twice now. So the bit about spears is in there somewhere, but I can't recall it.
Right. Maestra, you're in? Maybe?
Or not?
In but muted.
There we go. How you now?
We're all set to anti-government.
Yeah, I'm checking on the spear right now.
There we go.
The spear has been made out of wood or rattan haft. So
Okay.
I think the shaved's just recommended.
Cool.
The
Very
other
cool.
thing was the pool cueing. Okay.
I just have a quick question. So in one-on-one tournaments, like, so if you have spear versus like heavy rapier, is it still considered a non-standard weapon?
Okay. The pool cueing has been removed. You just can't set it. Okay. Other question. Spears are now standard. So it'll be tournament specific as to whether or not they're allowed, but you can fight spear versus rapier.
Was there, I don't know how much you were in for kind of the previous chunk. Was there more that you wanted to add? We're kind of having you guys jump in first here before we tackle a bigger list. I think we talked on reporting forms and kind of some changes in spears. I think that's sort of what's been covered so far.
Yeah, basically how I'm going to force the entire kingdom to report just like I do.
Mm-hmm. We're going to change how we do authorizations based on the new kingdom guidelines. But the new rapier rules have been out in society for a while, and the Outlands rules are going to very closely follow those. And we've had several conversations about that already. So unless the populace has specific questions that need answering, I don't think there's anything new going on in rapier.
All right. Anyone else in the populace have any sort of questions, or do we want to jump forward?
I mean, I think the only other thing that's going to come up is once we start doing stuff in person again, none of us are authorized anymore. So we're going to have to address that fairly quickly.
And we will go over that on our big list here. Definitely.
Ooh, that's a big list.
Right. That is a very important point, which all of the branches of Marshallet are going to have to deal with. So we'll jump on that. Okay, well, we'll get going on the list here. Hopefully everyone in the call knows that Sir Adrian is the Kingdom Earl Marshal. She is not speaking a lot today, but we've been working on a really cool ventriloquist act. So I'm going to be speaking her words as much as possible until I mess up and she corrects me. I'm Lord Ronan. I'm her deputy. And we've got a bunch of stuff to talk on. So, like His Majesty said this morning, officers still need to be doing our job, even though we're in the middle of a plague. We got stuff to do. But as was also said, this is a big opportunity, right? We've got a ton of time to fix stuff while stuff is essentially on pause. We've got, time to switch how reporting is done, how this and that is taken care of without, it happening 2 days before an event or 1 day before an event. And all of a sudden everyone's got to adapt real quick, or we've got hangover of the old way of doing something right before. So we're trying to look at this unfortunate time of not hitting each other with swords and sticks or shooting targets or riding horses with a slightly positive light, if we can, which is that we can work on a bunch of stuff, right? We can try to fix things. We can try to make things better for when we reopen. That being said, we've got a few things that are current issues in the Outlands Marshallet that we're going to be working on addressing. The first one and the big one is we have an unknown number of authorized fighters in the Outlands. There's a few reasons why this is a problem. The big ones being, insurance policies, society, and reporting. But we can't right now, at any given time, talk to any local night marshal or seneschal or on the kingdom level and be like, how many authorized fighters do you have? And have a real answer. This isn't good, and it's something that we need to address, we need to fix. And we've got a plan for it moving forward, which we'll talk about a bit later. But that's really a big key one to focus and think on, is that we need to be able to have that number with some degree of accuracy. So the stuff we'll be talking about later moving forward is to help address that concern and issue. I really liked hearing that that rapier form there talks about like number of authorized versus unauthorized people participating on that practice or event or what have you. That is great. It's a great way to start. And it would help in with this, but I think we need to go maybe one more step further with that, which again, we'll talk about later. Another one is, we have an unknown number of practices, events, etc. Hopefully events we've got set, but reporting has not been great for the Marshallet. Heavies, not super set. Equestrian's been fairly good. They're more small and compact, so they can keep track of their stuff really well. But as far as lights, archery, siege, heavies goes, we have not had solid reporting for quite some time now, which is causing a little bit of issue on the society level, and definitely an issue kingdom level for the Marshallet. Just as sort of a flat thing, there's been discussions with society that we need to fix this. So we're going to work on fixing it. We've sort of run out of "we'll do better, we promise" credit. So we have to do better and make changes to do better, as opposed to just saying that we will. Other things, there's new stuff introduced throughout the different branches. We talked a little bit about it in lights with spears. There's a couple new archery forms that are being introduced. There's a whole new subset of heavy fighting that's being added in. Equestrian is adding in stuff. It seems like every week there's a new something you can do on a horse. So as all these things are being added in, obviously we have to get handbooks updated and taken care of. We need to make sure that our marshals are aware of what's going on, aware of what the new rules are, so that things can still be handled safely. As well as, just sort of a general informing the populace so that we can do this cool new stuff instead of like finding out about it when we go to Estrella or something and being like, oh, this is a thing. So all of those are current issues facing the Marshallet. Another big one that we want to look at is consistency across the branches. So the Marshallet's a big thing, right? You've got all of these kingdom officers that report to another kingdom officer, and it's all under one big umbrella of the Marshallet, whether it is lights, heavies, equestrian, siege, archery. I think that's all of them. And they're all very different. The way in which we do things is different. The groups that are participating in a lot of these things are different. And part of trying to get this consistency across the branches of the Marshallet is to make things flow smoother so that the Kingdom Earl Marshal can expect ABC from all of the branches because everyone's kind of on a similar track, but also to try to encourage more cross participation, right? Have heavy fighters go do light stuff, have light fighters go do equestrian stuff, have archery people jump in and do heavy stuff. Like the more that we can make the different branches of the Marshallet operate in a similar way, the easier it'll be for people to move across activities and be able to participate in, instead of sitting there and being like, okay, well, wait a second, my equestrian authorization is good for 5 years so long as I'm using the same horse that was okayed with me for this. But if I move on to heavy, that's for 2. So we're trying to work on finding a way to make all of these things match each other so that it's understandable for the populace, it is manageable for all of the officers, deputies, local officers, and just all in all more streamlined to try to cut down on the amount of paperwork and stuff we have to do, which will help with getting our paperwork done. With that, of course, handbooks, like you said, lights in progress. Heavies is looking at a couple of changes, and that should be done shortly. Equestrian is having a major rewrite. I don't know if we have any other equestrians in on the call today, but there's a lot of things happening with equestrian. They're working on that. Archery, same deal. There's revision of the handbook that we're working on, and I am working with Siege on getting them up to date as well.
I think Throne just revised too.
And Throne,
Crown
yep.
and Target Archery just revised both of their books. So both of those have already been revised and are released on the website.
There we go. And that is another thing, is that within these branches, there's little sub branches, right? Throne within archery, cut and thrust within lights. This new, did we ever figure out what the real name of it is? We keep calling it live steel, but the new branch of heavies, still falls under heavies as well. And just making sure that we've got an organization for this, so that, if we show up to a thing and a random person is like, yeah, I want to do live steel, or I want to do whatever the name of that thing in archery is where you throw an arrow with a string between your thumb and your index finger, everyone board and knows what's going on.
Atlatl?
It's not quite an atlatl, it's something else. I don't know. It's probably a British thing. That's why it doesn't make sense. let's see. And then last bit on this first column, like I said, there's a lot of stuff on this. If you've got questions, please let me know. I'm just going to keep plowing forward. Is authorizations, right? So authorizations has got a couple issues, couple things that we need to address. And this is like all levels need to be looking at this, from kingdom officers to local officers, peerages within their respective activities. First thing is we don't really have a lot of consistency across our different martial activities, nor do we have consistency within our martial activities. You know, an authorization can be anything from a straight by the book 3-person authorization team, you know, 9-question, et cetera, to a, hey, I forgot my green card. Can you sign this one, please? And we need to make a little more consistency about that for reporting, for making sure things are safe, and especially with all these rules changes. You know, just because you have been fighting for X number of years and et cetera, doesn't mean you know, like we were talking about with pool cueing on a spear. You know, maybe you've got no idea what the new spear regulations are in lights. Maybe you have no clue about some of the changes that may have occurred in heavy weapons regulations. We need to make sure that the authorizations are being done to ensure the safety of our fighters. And we have to make sure that reporting is being sent up to the Marshallet. Another one is sort of the issues of responsibility, right? So right now with our cards, if you authorize someone, you scribble on some initials on the back, which may or may not be identifiable depending on your handwriting, and that's that. There's not really a reason besides, you know, caring about your fellow participants to make sure that the person you authorized is doing well, because it doesn't necessarily come back on that authorizing marshal the way that it's set now. So what we're trying to do is just make sure that we know who has authorized A, B, and C, how that authorization was done, so that if there are issues going in the future, if there's a report that comes in an injury, and again, hopefully none of this has to ever be dealt with, but if it happens, we know who to contact, who to talk with, and sort of where to look for if a problem arises, as opposed to kind of holding their hands up and going to society being like, oh, there was a thing and we don't know what happened. So with all that in mind, kind of moving forward, what are we doing to work on fixing some of these issues? What are some of the changes that are coming up in the Marshallet? So the big one is going to be an electronic sort of database of authorizations to keep things stored, and that is going to automate a bunch of reporting. So with this new system, when you authorize somebody, you know, you've got their information keyed on the electronic system, and that is going to fill out a dump report, which is going to go to an inbox for the Marshallet showing they were authorized. What this means is that if you, as an authorizing marshal, authorize someone, now that is known by the Marshallet and reported, so that you don't have to work on doing that extra level of reporting. And if we take away having to go and do that reporting, we take away not having that done. Having it automatically taken care of means that we will have an active count of the number of authorized fighters at any given point. And it's not going to rely on, you know, your local seneschal bothering your night marshal to, hey, send in your report and et cetera. The authorized fighters will be recorded. Obviously, we'll still want reports and what have you, but that part, which is really kind of key as far as society is concerned, will be taken care of and will get us out of a little bit of hot water. Sir Adrian?
So basically what we're trying to do there is make it easier for people to authorize people. Like if you are an authorizing marshal, it basically what it does is it's taking this information that you already have on somebody, that you don't go home and lose a piece of paper, or you don't go home and you forget to, you know, scan it and send it to somebody, so that all of this, it really makes reporting a lot easier. And so that's kind of what we're going to in this day of technology. Like why not use it? We have it. And so when we roll out this website, which will hopefully be way before we open back up, we're hoping to have it live by the end of January. We're going to try, we'll see what happens. But basically what it does is it takes a lot of the, oh, I forgot to mail out that one piece of paper. Oh, I forgot to, I forgot to send in this report that said I authorized this person. They are actually authorized. Sorry about that. It takes away a lot of that like stress of you have to remember something after you like go home and take a shower after practice and then be like, oh, I still have stuff to do. So we're trying to basically lessen the stress of that on people. So that's basically what this is all about, and all the online stuff is going to be about. You can basically, we're going to try and get it so where you could do it from your phone and send it in, and it automatically fills out a report for you, and everything else of that gets dumped to the Marshallet. We get to work it out.
Yeah, and adding on to that ease and sort of addressing some of those other issues, when that's done and taken care of, now we've got record of, this individual authorized this individual. Now it's done and set. So if there's a problem or an issue, we know who we got to talk to. We're going to be working on kind of making a little more consistency across the different activities of how that authorization is done. So there will be, for instance, a space on the heavy authorization for what members of the chivalry were present for the authorization. So again, it can be set. So if something comes up, we can be like, hey, Sir Gareth, I saw that you were here on this thing. Can you talk to me a little bit more about it? Another thing that will be helpful with this is that we're going to set it up to shoot you a reminder when your authorization is close to expiration, so that you don't show up to Grand Outlandish or whatever and be like, oh, my green card's expired. Can someone give me a new green card quick? The idea is that you'll have the opportunity to put an email address in there, and it'll shoot out and be like, hey, in a month your green card expires, or hey, in 2 weeks. Get this done, get this taken care of ahead of time, so that we don't have that issue of doing these like quick off the cuff authorizations at events, and therefore again reducing some of the reporting issues that are tied in with it. Because if you're in line and there's another person that is a fine fighter, fine equestrian, what have you, and they are in the line with the MOLs, and they're like, oh no, my card is expired, and you go and vouch for them or write them a new one. Again, you might forget by the end of the tournament that you told whoever, that they're set and ready to go. So we're just trying to cut down on any of these instances in which a lapse in reporting can happen, and try to make it as easy as possible for the authorizing marshals. Let's see here.
I just wanted to, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I think this is fantastic. I think you are on the right track in terms of the mindset of making it easier for everybody to do everything. Are we going to talk about how we're going to address the culture that's the base problem?
Sir Adrian?
Because we can make the tools easy, but if the culture doesn't change, you will continue to have these kinds of authorizations.
Well, yeah, that's fair, except for we won't, because of other things that we're implementing, which we have a little bit further down on our timeline. But
Sure. I'll be quiet now.
No, you don't have to be quiet now.
You're bringing up an excellent point, Your Excellency. Definitely, like you can make all the policies and rules, and you can put as many tools as you want out there. But if people don't want to or refuse to use them, like, where do we go from there?
Yeah, and we have something that we will talk about it. And I will, babe, stop. Everybody say hi to Hawk. Ian, do you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I know that, and again, a lot of my background is in a completely different kingdom, so I can't speak to culture here, but I do know that in the East, all the marshals who brought me up and all the marshals who I trained, and certainly I had a lot of influence in the southern region of the East Kingdom. We basically had built a culture of training people to the point where we could be sure we were not going to be the answer to the Jeopardy question, who the hell signed this guy's card? So there is a lot of that went into how you train a marshal to deal with authorizing and handling, people as they come in. So that we did have a lot of people who you would look at and say, yes, I'm pleased to have signed that person's card. And I'm also pleased to tell that royal peer that I signed that person's card. So if there's a way to, I don't know, enforce is not the right word, but instill, and I don't see as much of a problem with that in the rapier community as I would fear. But if there's a way to instill that in the culture of marshaling, I think that goes a long way, especially if it's very easy to say, by the way, we've got this cool tool that makes it so that you do all of this hard work over here, authorize the person, and then click the buttons, fill in your name, their name, and send. I think that would go a long way towards helping build that into culture.
Absolutely. And that's the hope, right? But I believe what His Excellency of Alberon, because geography, is more commenting to is not necessarily sitting there and taking responsibility on your authorization, but for individuals that are less motivated to feel as though they need to prove that they deserve their authorization over and over again through following the actual rules and doing the authorization, versus I have been authorized for X amount of time, just give me a green card.
Yeah, I got it. So I'm just gonna jump ahead. Your Excellency, we're pulling everybody's marshaling. If you have if you're an authorizing marshal right now, we're basically pulling everybody's, and you have to petition to become a new one again. And basically you have to show that you know the rules and that you actually want to follow the rules and you want to put in reporting and you want to do it. And basically we're creating a new baseline of people that will actually report and actually want to do this, so that it eliminates the entire thing of, oh, it's a tournament right now, let me sign this card for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I apologize for making you say that before you were ready, but I appreciate that you addressed the issue, because that was my concern. Thank you very much.
And that's a big concern of ours too. And that's something that we're really trying to work with across the entire Marshallet. We're pulling everybody's right to authorize basically, and you have to petition to get it. It will be in the OH. It's coming out. We sent out an announcement and everything, and that also rolls into authorizations as well, which we will talk about. And Ronan, roll with it, bro.
Okay. So, yep, that I think kind of gets that taken care of. Other things we're working on to fix these issues, just to get that wrapped up before moving on with this here. Obviously, we're updating the handbooks for all of the branches right now, except maybe Siege. I think Siege is up to date. But otherwise, getting a few things changed and updated. There's some of them are little changes, some of them are big changes. Like I said, the equestrian handbook is almost getting a full rework. There's a couple of language changes in lights, archery. Heavies is not too much of a change there. A couple little tweaky things, but that's about it. So then, yeah, we're looking at refreshing all the authorizations in the Outlands. So first thing is, again, because of this wonderful pause in activity that we've had, a lot of people are just expiring anyway on their authorizations, right? Like, unfortunately, with that, the latest thing being that at the earliest, we're looking at June 1st or May 31st, whatever it is. That's over a year now that we have not been active. So most likely, if it's a 2-year authorization, even if you're just looking at statistically, half the people are going to need to be reauthorized, unless they are somehow getting authorized over this break, which if they are, hey, good on them for keeping up on their authorization. So we're just going to we're just going to be working on getting everyone's authorizations up to date and making sure that they are getting set up into the system. Because again, this is a great time to reintroduce this system because we have this long break. If everyone basically is needing to get reauthorized anyway, it is a good time to start from square one as opposed to doing a sort of trickle in thing. Sorry, Jean, do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in here and basically how this is gonna go. So what's gonna happen is, and I don't like using the word pulling of cards because we're not pulling your card. That's not what's happening, but everyone in the kingdom will get a new card. We're starting over. We're starting from scratch. We have to because the way the Marshallet has kind of gone is we've lost track of people, we've lost track of authorizations, we've lost track of a lot of things. So we're basically going to try and start over. And with that, the card color is changing. The authorizations will only be 2 years period, and that's across the board. That's for archery, that's for equestrian, that's for rapier, that's for heavies. That's everybody across the board. We're going to 2 years. And basically what we're gonna do is if your card did not expire until quarantine started, so if your card was up to date on, what was it, we were saying March, when basically everything shut down, you will get a new card. And how you're going to do this is that there's an email that'll be posted in the LH, it'll be on the Kingdom page, it'll be everywhere, and it's basically a card where you can take a picture of your fighter card front and back and a picture of your membership card front and back. You email it to that site and we send you a new card. And so if you were authorized up to when we shut down, we will authorize you again, is basically how that's happening. If you were not authorized when we shut down, you have to get reauthorized. And you will have 3 months from when we open back up to get reauthorized. New cards will look like this. They're pink. They're bright pink. So that you can't, there's no more green
forms?
cards. Yeah, it's very obvious from across the field. If somebody holds up a pink card, we're like, okay, you've been reauthorized. Like you've gone through all the steps, you're in our system. We had to do a complete change of the cards. We're getting all of the new things that you can do in all of the different Marshallet activities added to the new card. And so we're literally trying to make this as easy as possible without making it like everybody in the entire kingdom has to reauthorize, because that's gonna be super difficult. But so basically, if your card was, what's up? Do you have a question?
You're muted.
Unmuted, yeah, I know, I'm muted. I was going to wait till you were finished, but I'll throw it in now. We are actively planning Battlemore for beginning of July. So if reopen comes June 1, yeah. Just thought I'd throw that at you.
Okay.
Since there's a slight pause, Surgeon, instead of saying pulling cards, since you have that email system, suspension of the cards might be better verbiage.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like it's like just a update. We're updating your cards to this
That works even better.
color.
I imagine you have a plan for getting your authorizing marshals authorized before that point, or ready to authorize before that point. So I'm not worried about Battlemore. We all just make it work.
Yeah, and I have a really good feeling that this new system's really going to work and roll out. And you can petition to become an authorizing marshal. Everybody has to petition now because we've had some in the past that just don't report, and that's not something that we can deal with anymore.
Right.
We have to have reports. We have to have actual numbers. We are getting in trouble from society for it. So it's just not something that I'm going to put up with anymore. We're not doing it. Like, if you want to be an authorizing marshal, let us know. We'll have a conversation with you about it. We'll talk to you about all the rules. We'll make sure you actually know the rules. And then we'll make sure that you know how to turn in paperwork.
There's an existing database for armored combat now. Is that going to roll over, or are you just going to throw that out? Or
there is an existing database for armored combat now, and we have talked to Johan about it, and we had a long conversation about it. And the things that we want it to do, sadly, that one might get scrapped, but we're using a lot of things that were on it. So we've had discussions with him about it. We had a long Zoom call with him about it, about exactly what we want the website to do and how other people can use it and get information to the masses that way. So it'll probably be a new site, but we are going off of everything that he's already built. So.
So on updating cards, an important thing to remember is that the cards are a physical representation of your authorization on this database, right? So if ideally we're trying to make it work that the like MOLs can just have, you know, a discreetly hidden in a book iPad or something and be able to just go through and be like, oh yeah, you're authorized, just give me your name and we go through, kind of a deal. So if you have a card that you printed off at home or got from a buddy or whatever, but they are not actually an authorizing marshal or didn't put you in the online database, you are not authorized. You just have a pink piece of paper. You know, there events happen in places where we don't have internet. We don't have just the ability to look up on a database. And so having the cards can be very useful for those times, or if it's off on a melee and you've got a couple hundred people there, et cetera, just hold up your pink cards, please. If you see that someone doesn't have them, tell them to go sit down, you know. But the sort of big base of it, back to going with problems with authorization right now, is that if someone is not following the proper channels, that will be identifiable, right? Like if someone is just making up this card and not reporting or not signing up, then we will see, hey, why doesn't the database reflect this? We need to have a talk and figure out what's going on, again, to make sure that we are accurately reporting things and accurately authorizing people to make sure that things are safe and things meet society standards. Let's see. So another one, warrants. So warrants are something that we haven't kept up on very well in the kingdom. It's something that is in our kingdom law and our kingdom handbooks to do, which is essentially that local officers, the kingdom officers, and of course the kingdom or all-night marshal have a warrant from the kingdom or the society, depending on where you sit in that hierarchy, saying that you are authorized to be in charge of this stuff. Like you are in charge of watching over practice, making sure things are safe, and reporting on it, ABC. We are going to be making sure that we have warrants out for the martial officers for local groups, and those will be held by the seneschal, so that there's another level of, you know, hey, this expires in 2 years, just make sure that this is the officer that you want doing this, that their society membership is up to date, because they really shouldn't be being an official officer and running this stuff if they are not a member, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something that we're going to be working on, which means that it is an opportunity now for the local groups and et cetera to review their martial officers, make sure that, you know, yep, these are the people that we want going forward to be doing this, talk with them and be like, hey, are you comfortable with doing this reporting and et cetera? Like this stuff needs to be done. And if it's not something that you want to do or feel that you're capable of doing, then we need to find another person, because we need to get your information in for you to have a warrant before we reopen, so that we can have our stuff done with all of our ducks in a row. We're going to be looking at trying to have every local martial officer be an authorizing marshal for that. So when we get that list for warrants, we're going to reach out to them and be like, hey, we would love you to be an authorizing marshal, so that every group can have somebody who can authorize. You're not stuck out in Rio with no authorizing marshals trying to figure out how to do something, as an example.
Dracamore.
Or Dracamore, yeah, wherever you may be, we're trying to make sure that at least one person there is an authorizing marshal. Now, this doesn't, of course, mean that we're just going to give away authorizing ability to anyone that takes the office. They'll still need to, you know, show that they are competent in making sure that people can be safe and understand the rules. But it's a thing for those local groups to think about, is that your martial officer should be someone that you trust with authorizing people. And if they are not, how can we either work with them to make them up to that standard where you're like, yeah, you can be in charge of deciding who is safe, or do we need to look at somebody else to fill that role responsibly? With that, of course, we'll need to be assembling all the needed warrant information for everybody. So a letter will be going out to the seneschals from all the local groups being like, hey, we need their name, their membership number, when their membership expires, blah, 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 blah. Just as a heads up for people in local groups, or if you are a martial officer or the head of a local group, that will be coming down the pipes. The faster we can get that information, the faster we can turn it around and get this process done. So we thank everybody ahead of time for your expediency on working on that. And then, as Sir Adrian said, we will also be accepting petitions for authorizing marshals. So you don't have to be your local night marshal or rapier marshal or whatever to be an authorizing marshal. We are just trying to get those positions to be authorizing marshals so that every group has a chance of having authorizations without doing like a kingdom tour of the authorizing marshals that just have to stop by every town and try to help people out with this. On that chunks through the list. What kind of question, or Sir Adrian, I guess, do you have anything else that you'd like to add before we kind of delve into questions?
I think that's it. Jervelle, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think you covered it well.
Okay. Anybody have any questions then? Yeah, Angus.
So, so along with the, having an authorizing marshal in each group, for the heavy side specifically, are you guys still going to require members of the chivalry to be present for a authorization?
Yep. It is in our rules, so we're keeping it that way.
And
I would just like to say that for some groups that it'll kind of defeat the point of what you're doing. Like in Fontaine, for example, we have no members of the Order of Chivalry, and yes, we can get people. We have one night in Rio that can come down and get us going. But if you're not on the King's Highway, it really, I feel like it's not the best rule personally, and I know maybe I'll be beaten up by members of Chivalry. I don't know, but I don't really feel like it's a practical rule. I'm just going to throw that out there.
No, and I understand, and this is something that we've taken into consideration. It is a rule that I talked to their majesties about possibly changing, and they said no. So I was like, okay, if that's what we're doing, we're going with that. My bosses said no. I said, okay, we'll work with it. And that's why you also have that 3-month grace period after we open back up to get reauthorized, because you will be somewhere, there will be chivalry there, and we're going to do a lot of traveling. We're going to try and make it work. I will travel to places if that's something that's an issue. I don't have a problem with that. And so we're going to try and make that work within the rules that we have.
Yep. So yeah, it's an excellent point. And, like I said, coming out of Rio, and specifically for Rio and Fontaine, Dracamore, that yeah, it's a long ways off. But we're hoping that sticking to the system will try to encourage maybe a little bit more cross travel in with it as well. If we've got 5 fighters in Rio and there needs to be 2 members of the chivalry present and we only have 1, well, maybe one time this summer we book down to Alberon for a practice. Maybe we head over to Arkel and go and just be like, hey, we are going, to see you guys in a practice, but also if you could please have a couple of belts and chains there because we really need to authorize, that would be great.
I think what I'm going to do to support that effort is try to encourage the chivalry that live within my borders to do their job, which is travel. So honestly, part of this has to fall on the chivalry specifically to do what they need to do to get there to help those who need to be helped. And the fact is that Fontaine is only 2.5, 3 hours away. And if we can get everybody to meet there or meet us in Cuba, for heaven's sake, I'm sure we can make things like this happen more smoothly. But honestly, communication once the communication bit gets fixed or starts to get fixed, a lot of this stuff I think will start to resolve because we will be actively talking about what is needed, and it won't be any guesswork to it. There won't be, well, I wonder if Blackwater needs authorizations. No, we'll know everybody's cards are about to expire and we'll just go do it. And it won't be this, maybe we're thinking about it in the back of our minds. Having somebody or a group of somebody's in this case that are keenly aware of the fact that this position requires paperwork and keeping track of things is going to change how we've just been doing things, I think. And these issues that arise because nobody's talking to each other go away when everybody starts talking to each other.
Absolutely.
The handbook says you only need one member of the chivalry, by the way.
Right. Sorry. No, you're right. One member of the chivalry.
I was like, I'm pretty sure it was only one, so I pulled it out. I was like, yeah, it's only one. So I was like, having two is, I can see how that would be really difficult, but you only need one member of the chivalry.
Yeah.
My mind was starting to race. So
yeah, I was like, how do you need two? Oh gosh.
Mine was secretly going, oh, I thought we did.
Yeah, I was like, that's not.
Rio also only had one authorizing marshal. So that was the problem, is that Gareth was the only thing from two roles, and that's where the problem came in.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. One member of the chivalry.
He was a linchpin.
Yeah. One member of the chivalry and an authorizing marshal, which, I'm hoping that the chivalry steps up and wants to become authorizing marshals. I'm really hoping for that. So
when is this rolling out? Like when are we going to see this, and when can we start petitioning to become authorizing marshals? Well, I guess I'm asking, what are the timelines looking like?
It's being announced in the OH. I turned in the paperwork. It should be announced in the OH in the next OH that comes out.
Fantastic.
I will also be posting this later today on the Kingdom website and our Facebook groups and everything else like that. I'm going to send them out for people to share so that they know. The email is on there.
Wonderful.
So as soon as you get the email, you can start petitioning.
Okay, thank you.
So like Sir Adrian said, we're hoping for the website, the digital part of it, to be set by end of January. But we're going to start keeping track and start doing the card replacement. It fairly instantly. And that way we'll have a database to start up the website on of all the people that have updated their cards. That way we can just put you in to the system right from there to help accelerate the process as well.
Very good. So are we going to do training largely one by one as they come in? Is there a plan to maybe do something like this only to get people ready to meet the standards that you're setting out?
If we have a large group of people that come in right at the beginning, I'll do a Zoom call if people are interested in that, and we'll get all on the same page basically.
For sure.
Other than that, we're writing up basically an outline of what we kind of expect of people if they want to be an authorizing marshal. And it's it's nothing that you have to sign. It's not a contract, but like we want people to take it pretty seriously. So
I think that the fact that you are taking such steps will probably communicate that to most people.
Here's hoping.
I'm with you.
Any other questions?
I have one. So this happened before, obviously, the lockdown, but I heard there was an experiment with like thrusting tips on the Keons of great swords, and I wanted to be part of that experiment, but I could never find who was in charge of that. Well, maybe making it more visible if there's an experiment going on and be able to join be something that can be done, a more visibility to that.
So do you mean on the Keons or do you mean on the pommel?
I heard both.
Okay.
So again.
Yeah, no, definitely the experimental stuff. And again, with heavies, we don't usually have that much experimental stuff. Equestrian is is like half experimental stuff right now. So they do a much better job of making sure that that's out and known and talking to people about these things. The problem with Keons is that you have that parallel to a fist with striking, right? It's the same issue with
Yeah.
tonfas. So that is probably a no. As far as pommels go, Sir Adrian, do you wanna talk about that at all?
As far as pommels go, we are going to make it an experimental thing. And if you'd like to be a part of that, we would love that. Basically, what's going to happen is I'm getting the paperwork submitted for it currently. I sent it in my last report to society that it was something that I would like to work with. Because I really like the idea and I like hitting my friends in the face. So
Well, it's got some issues. Our kingdom not having that specifically at Battlemore at the Thane tournament.
Which is very true. And so we're working on that currently. That'll get posted to the Kingdom website too. One of the things that we're going to try and be a lot better at is communication. I think we have a problem with communication in general. And it's just going to be like, hey, here's all the information on what we're doing right now. That's why we're posting this across, Facebook. It's going into the OH. We're going to get it onto, the little Earl Marshall tab on the Outlands website, and which will also link you to all of the other marshals. And we're going to try and be a lot better about communication too. And I think that's a big issue that we have been having. We don't know what's going on, right? And it's because nobody talks to anybody else. And that's what's great is today, since we're all on basically quarantine or in lockdown or whatever it is, Zoom is a great way to get that started. And I was thinking another thing that we want to do is we're going to be putting out different types of marshalling videos onto the YouTube channel so that it'll explain more rules on things. It'll show you exactly what's going on. You can have some more visual contact with that. If anybody wants to do a video for that page, please let us know. We would love for you to do one. And then, Ian, do you have a question?
We're talking about communication. I have found a copy of one of those reports that I was talking about. This is what I send up to Kingdom. It's a lot. The important part that anybody would have to worry about is here. The rest of it is me explaining what has gone on in this area. So everybody knows that we've got a fearsome youth fighter who started very recently. We have all the forms on file, and they've been attending practice. Now, this is from February. So I was, we were still active then. But yeah, I tend to throw in a lot of what is going on around here, mostly because I live in the hinterlands and I know that the marshal staff doesn't tend to get here. When I lived in a more populous region, I did less of that because it was very likely that my regional and my kingdom marshal were either from my practice or from a 50-mile radius of my practice. So I didn't have as much need for it. Here, sure, I think people need to know that. So that's the kind of stuff that I throw in there. But again, this is the part that anybody needs to know about. And I make sure that that's in there. I think that having a structure for that is kind of cool because it gives people, all right, I got this much room. I can fill in some stuff that happened. And I think that that would go a long way towards, all the forms having info heading back up the chain from local practices on up.
Yeah, and we're making a new one that's coming out too. I love the one that Jervel uses to report with. It's basically it has drop down bars. You can fill out stuff, it has comment boxes and everything else like that. I absolutely love that one because I can read her report in 3 seconds and see if anything's wrong and be like, great report, thank you. Next, because I get a lot of reports, I'm not gonna lie. For people who are currently sending them in, which is 5. So so I really like that reporting tool. I also like letter reports too. I don't care as long as you want to report. If you actually report, I'm happy. I will get the information I need out of it to send to society. I'm not gonna lie, but I am gonna implement something the reports that Javel sends me, where it's like basically an email I can send you. You could do the drop downs and you can send it right back. And there's going to be like a reminder, hey, make sure this is in by Friday, because Monday my report goes out to society. And I don't want to say that you just don't turn in your reports, because I will. So.
So when I was the night marshal in Rio, I did a similar sort of a report that talked about like recruiting, like new fighters and all that kind of stuff. And I do agree with you that especially in some of the far off lands, it's a helpful thing because it also lets people know that like stuff is happening, right? In these little places. You can send in that report, and then at least the Marshallet is aware of, you know, hey, these people have been showing up to practice like really, really consistently. And if we need to, you know, reach out and do an event or have people help run stuff or whatever, this is at least a name that otherwise may not have been heard very much in that martial activity community, that at least now the Marshallet is hearing over and over because they attended the practice or they, you know, did this, did that, whatever. I would talk about like the local fighters, what tournaments and stuff they went to kind of show that, you know, hey, Rio has got like 4 or 5 people that are heading out and doing this in this event and in this event. We like doing these things. If you feel like coming down and fighting with us or shooting arrows with us or whatever, come on down to Rio. It's nice. So I do see definitely some credit in having a little bit more of the report other than no one died, no one got injured. We're still a place, the end.
I think as we continue to up the expectations of what we want these people to be able to do, you'll find that becomes more commonplace. Just by force of habit. The thing is that the reason why that gets shied away from now is because we've got folks that don't take it seriously enough to report their numbers, much less anything else. So I think that part of that gets resolved when the officer of marshal starts being fulfilled by people that take it seriously. I have a question.
Okay.
So there was a lot of hubbub and discussion about rules and Marshall's handbook. Should we just wait until you put yours out before we start asking what's been revised?
So some of the things that are going to be revised is the wording on the plane on people on their knees. That's getting reworded. There will be a picture.
Pictures are great.
Yeah, we're making the outlines. I love heavy fighters. This should be a book because I think we'd understand it more. So we're working on that.
And read it.
Yeah, there's also some things that some concerns that came up, like if you're fighting Florentine and you drop a weapon and we don't call hold because you still have a weapon, this hand is now unprotected. So that's kind of like, it's a weird thing like that. So we're changing that wording in there a little bit. We're changing green cards to pink cards.
Spinning out from a dead from behind.
The spinning out from the dead from behind I'm working on. That's something that I'm currently working on. Because I definitely think it goes under the don't be a dick rule, but we are putting it in the handbook.
So here's my deal. I don't care if it's in there or if it's not. I just want consistency, and I want consistency of enforcement. So if we're going to say that we don't need to put a rule in it because we all just need to police ourselves, we actually have to police ourselves. If we're not going to do that, then we have to be able to empower somebody else, like a marshal, the actual officer, whether they have a belt or not, to be able to say, you're breaking the rules, I'm taking your card. Because as of right now, that's not how it plays out. And people will argue about personal responsibility, but it's put up or shut up time as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I'm just going to add the rule into the book because I want to make it easy for my marshals to be like, nope, that's literally a rule in the book. If they don't have a white belt or not, it doesn't matter who's marshaling your field. You should listen to that person. That always doesn't happen. And that's it's a little bit bothersome. So we're getting back to the point of, well, it's a rule now. You can't fight with me about it because it's an actual rule. So I'm putting it in there. You can't spin out from dead from behind. Don't be a douche.
I appreciate your commitment to this. Thank you.
So,
We've seen some pretty egregious spin outs over the years. So
which are horrible. Yeah. And I just, especially, and this is horrible, but I'm going to throw us under the bus, especially from chivalry members. And I'm like, that's chivalrous. So chivalrous. Good job. Proud.
all of the offenders I'm thinking of, and I have a list of names in my head, are all chivalry.
Yeah.
So.
See, and so, yeah, we got to be better about that. And we just got to be better about ourselves. And like, I'm just hoping that this rehaul of the Marshallet and everything else like that, when we start to hold people accountable, I'm going to say that I'm glad that I'm a knight, because I can look at a brother knight in the eyes and be like, you're being an asshole. Stop. So.
Sort of touching off of that, obviously there's going to be a bunch of changes that we're working on with this. So as much support as we can have, not only from the various peerages, but from the heads of local groups and etc., the smoother it's all going to go. Like if we don't have to re-explain and argue and whatever with everyone every step of the way, the faster we can try to bring this into some consistency and address some of the bigger issues that are happening. And for those of you that are officers or heads of groups that are on the call right now, like, we really appreciate it. The support that we're getting from you guys and future support, because it makes Sir Adrian's and then therefore my job a lot easier.
I wholeheartedly support the actions of this office, as I'm bound to, but also because I agree with them. I will also say that Alvaron will be switching out its Night Marshal soon. We were taking letters. The Seneschal is handling that at the current moment. So we will be primed to fall in line with whatever is coming out of the Earl Marshal's office. And if you need help with training, facilitating that, I plan to be there every step of the way to show that the coronet backs this line of thinking.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I guess we're like at 15 minutes left in our time slot.
What's Death from Behind look like for heavies?
All right. So Ronan is fighting, right? And so I'm coming up behind Ronan, and he is unaware of me, and that is kind of a key factor. He is and he can't voluntarily be unaware of me. He has to be honestly unaware of me, right? Not just turning his head and refusing to make eye contact. So I come up behind him, and I do, for me personally, if I have a sword and shield, I will put my sword across the front of his vision so that he sees it, and I will put my shield around the other side of him and tell him in a clear voice, "You are dead from behind, my lord." Okay. And at that point, he has to consider himself dead. If I'm fighting with a 9-foot spear, for me, it can look a little different. I will generally try and approach somewhat close to the guy, tap him on the shoulder sharply with the spear, and not like bang, all right, not like Thor, but enough so that it gets his attention, and holler as loud as I physically can, "You are dead from behind, my lord." And I've never had anybody not take one of those. So
If
The important part is
choose not to take that and would rather get smacked in the spine by a 9-foot spear from behind, there's something wrong with you. Like,
Yeah.
if someone does that to me, I'm like, thank you for
Yeah.
not destroying my kidneys. I appreciate that.
nobody is ever happy about it, but when you make it clear to them that you had the drop on them, they generally say, okay.
And we're not
The
really
point
talking
is-
about the general populace when we're talking about the issue here.
Point is, you just need to show control and restraint.
I was just
Absolutely.
curious. We have the same basic idea, at half the blade over a shoulder and a clear. The word is courtesy. You don't have to wait until you've heard that you're dead to be dead. because half a blade over your shoulder should darn well tell you. But yeah, we have some stuff written about that. I can't just not see you. But I was curious what it looked like for heavies, and now I know. Thank you.
Adrian, maybe that can help in your verbiage something. You were actually dead before the guy starts talking to you.
Yeah, if the weapon hits your shoulder at all, you're dead now. That's when you're dead. Which,
Yeah. And the fighter is just informing you. So
Yeah, ours is actually ones you can see it come over your shoulder. You don't have to wait to feel it.
Right. And people have, and that's the eternal rules lawyering argument that has occupied the cabins of SUVs on the way back from events since, time immemorial in this kingdom. But I think that regardless of the verbiage, as long as we're consistent in our application and understanding within the Marshallet, I think the rest of it will fall into place. I think that's been a lot of the issue on multiple points is, and I think that you guys have outlined a pretty clear plan on how to address that.
If there aren't any other questions, we could talk real quick about the new heavies branch thing, not in like a ton of detail, but just to say that it's out there and exists, because a lot of people don't know that it is. Are there any questions before I go off on a strange rabbit hole?
Has anybody in our kingdom expressed an interest in getting started with the new heavy?
I've talked to a couple people that have been so interested on it.
I've only heard people complain that there are guidelines.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think what it would take was either like a good demo or going to an inner kingdom event, which another kingdom is doing it, for people to like properly get excited about it. I think most heavy fighters are looking at it right now as, man, that's a lot more equipment I have to buy, because the armor regulations are significantly tougher. Like even they're significantly higher than cut and thrust for armor requirements. So it's a step to buy in kind of a thing. But so the new division of heavy fighting, whatever it's called, live steel, I don't know. We have to figure out what it's really called. But essentially it is a full armor. I don't want to say plate, but they want, rigid material, etc. And then steel weapons, concussive combat. So instead of it being a stab or a cut and draw, like cut and thrust, this is like swing at your opponent and land a proper hit, but be wearing armor that you can take. And it is armor from the fingertips, I think down to the knees. Maybe it's down to the feet.
It's feet.
Down to feet. Yeah, like you are in plate or close to it. It seems very much skewed towards a late period kind of a kit. I'm sure that there's ways people in the SCA are creative to make a more early period thing that's covered up. But you need to be armored for this. The big change, like the primary difference in this between anything else, is that this is a judged event. You go to first of 3 killing blows as determined by the marshal watching the match. So it's a little different than the rest of our SCA events, right? Where it's, I acknowledge that was a successful hit. In rapier or Ross Fectin or heavies. This is a very different sort of a style because someone is watching and determining whether or not your hit landed with applicable force. The other big thing in it is that it is strictly in the rules for the event that your kit has to be period outside of 10 feet. Like if I'm a spectator from 10 foot away and I look at your kit, I can't see an Adidas logo. I can't, see your soccer shin guards. Like that, you have to make an effort. It seems like it's a society created martial activity to try to really make a spectator sport more so than our current activities are. Like, not to say that it's not fun to go watch a bunch of people stab each other, because it's great. But this is the idea of, this is a full kit, decked out, looking period. You're out there with big old steel. It's only single sword and shield, or like bastard sword right now. Maybe in the future it'll branch out into other bladed weapons. I am presuming they're going to stay away from maces and mauls and stuff with a ton of mass, but we'll see. But that is in its infancy. It exists in society, and it's just something to be aware of if you are a heavies marshal, because it will fall under you or your local night marshals, because it is part of heavies. Any questions or comments, things on that? Because again, it's a very young, new thing. So, you know, any feedback or interest would be great for Sir Adrian to hear, for sure.
I'm
So,
mainly
Ronan-
just curious about it at this point, as someone who's done a lot of cut thrusts. Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
No. I only briefly read the rules before, and isn't it, as a judged thing, aren't there multiple marshals that are actually watching the fight?
Correct.
And it's one of those things where we don't have anybody who actually has any of that training whatsoever to begin with. If there's really a dedicated group of people that are interested, I mean, by the rules you've already outlined, I don't see many people being that solidly interested. I've only watched the demonstrations at Pennsic. I walked by it. I watched them hit each other and people yelling numbers. So it's almost kind of a very odd addendum of HEMA and Battle of Nations or something like that into the SCA. If people really want to do it, great. But I'm going to your comment about it becomes the local marshal's issue, and I don't know that it really does. I think that the marshal at that point says, we are not qualified. You can bring this up with Kingdom, or we can try to gain a broader audience. But like, I don't think, so Cair Galen is going to suddenly become a hotspot of steel live fighting, and how we would want to do that if we wanted to move forward.
Mm-hmm. No.
You just locked it in, you know.
Hell no, I didn't. No.
No, that's, and in that is definitely a really good point, which is that the local marshal officers should always feel comfortable of reaching out to the Marshallet if they have questions or concerns, or, you know, they need backup on something, or if they're not comfortable with something. Like if someone rolls up to practice with their ballista and they're like, well, you know, siege is a martial activity, so while you guys are out there, I'm just going to take pot shots. Like, feel free to say when you're uncomfortable and to reach out for backup if you need. You know, we want our local marshals to be supporting us, and it is insane for us to expect that without supporting them.
Thank you.
I will be getting authorized to watch this live steel thing. I'm gonna authorize to do it. My dog's going insane. I'm sorry. I'm not expecting anybody else to do it if they don't want to. I'm totally fine with that. I'm gonna do it because it's kind of expected of my job. And I'll learn about it. I probably won't participate, but I will be a marshal of it. So that's kind of where I'm at on it. And I totally understand. Like, I understand where Finn is coming from. It's a lot of, I don't understand why we're doing it if like HEMA does it and like Battle of Nations does it. Like, it's done other places, so like we don't have to be everything, and that's kind of how I feel about that. But I will get authorized in it, or authorized to at least marshal it, and I've been talking to the society or a marshal about that and how we can get that rolling, especially in a time of shutdown where it's not something that I can like go somewhere and get authorized to do it. And so we're working on that currently.
It sounds like you're working on it right now.
I'm working on it right now with my dog fighting in my living room. It's amazing. So, yeah. But that's kind of, I understand Finn's feelings on that, because it's kind of, I haven't had a lot of people ask me about it so far. We'll see what happens with, you know, when we open back up and everything. But we will have at least one, which will be me, and maybe Ronan, because he totally wants to do it too. I can tell.
I
And
almost have the kit.
yeah. Oh, well, he's gonna play. There we go. And Terry, are you gonna do it too?
Yes.
There
I'll
we
do
go.
it,
Perfect.
William. I'll do it.
Yep.
You guys want to be marshals?
Yes.
Yeah. There we go.
I want to
Cool.
do it anyway.
Two people to fight.
That's there you go. We have two
I'm willing to
fighters, we have
learn.
2 marshals. We're good to go, guys. So
You know that I build kits, and it's just another kit to build. It's so enticing.
Mhm.
there.
I'm willing to marshal, to record, or to fight in it. I'll build the kit.
Rock on.
Ooh.
Well, there we go. Now we have some interest in it, and that will definitely be a YouTube video that goes up too, is talking about all the rules that go with that and everything, and trying to get those out there. I'm going to try and do a YouTube video for all the new rules for all the new books, and then explaining some of the new rules, like heavies is definitely needs a visual for how to not pass the plane on your knees, and dead from behind. So those will be short little videos as well.
Are those going to feature the beautiful and talented work of Master Hawkrell? Can we get a video with him assisting you?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's how not to kill somebody from behind, and then we can watch Hawk go crazy. It's amazing.
If
I was
someone
thinking Dr. Seuss, but
That's great.
if someone does need help recording those videos, they don't have a camera or whatever, especially if they're down near Alberon or I'm willing to travel, I'm more than happy to show up with my kit and help out.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Would be absolutely awesome.
Yeah, and if anybody else has an idea for a video that they want to toss out, like, we're here for it. We're just trying to get content out while we're all kind of in the time of the shutdown of the SCA. We're trying to put out as much information as we can, so that it's not a complete overload to everybody when we come back. And it's also good resources to just be like, somebody's kind of new and they're like, I don't understand the dead from behind rule. Well, there's this wonderful video you can watch on it, and so, yeah. So that's kind of what we're hoping and planning on doing. That's kind of where we're moving forward with the Marshallet at this time.
I know Master Adam was doing some tips and tricks videos early on, and was trying to get the rest of us to help out with that. As an essential worker, I don't have as much time at home. We've put together a couple, my student and I. The last one that I think would be effective here, certainly at the Marshallet level, was how to measure blade flexibility. That we have to redo because the soundtrack, as much as it should be me talking about what I'm doing, it is in fact all the rest of the people in the house behind us talking about pumpkin spice. So we have to redo that one because there was no salvaging most of it. But once we get that, I think that would be kind of a good input to a basic marshalling level thing.
Absolutely.
I think that might be helpful.
No,
I think that's wonderful, and we can absolutely put that up on the site once you get it done, because we actually do have an Outlands YouTube channel. Just found this out, actually.
And the more stuff like that gets put out and vetted through the Marshallet, the easier it's going to be to make it standard, because you can just say, you can pull it up in practice, because a lot of us have practices in the cities where we live, and we've got Wi-Fi, and boom, here's a video that says what you should know about dead from behinds or what have you. And there's no arguing about the rule. There's no 5 people who profess to be the expert trying to speak at once.
Yeah.
Now, I will recommend, when you do create these videos, I highly recommend a placard card or something in that shows up front that has what the rule is, and then also say the year or the revision of the rule book, just in case 5 years down the line, if a new video comes out, you can tell which one's the new and which one's the old, just for those kind of references. I know that I've gotten some videos on how to die with a spear, how to cover up with a shield. How I thought I had one on how to die from behind, but I can't find it right now. Most of these were collected at like the Goliath War Practice or the Alberon War Practice or the Alberon Day of ANS, when they had those different classes, and then there was a little offshoot of this is how you properly do it so that nobody gets hurt.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely. I think that definitely for a bookkeeping perspective, that's a great idea, and a solid thing to include. At that, I think that's our time, right? 11:45. It's probably like a lunch break or something after this, but
I can keep the room open to 12:15 is
Okay.
what my marching orders are. So,
gotcha.
but if everyone's done, you can also end early. So,
I appreciate
I'm going to go eat. So, you know.
okay. So I will stop recording at this time.
Thank you guys for all the work you're doing.
Yes,
Thank
thank you very much.
Thanks for